The next item is item number 6 is an application for a certificate of appropriateness at 30-32 West 24th Street in the Ladies Mile Historic District, docket number 16-1314, Block 825, Lot 12, a neo-Gothic style store and loft building designed by Brown and Almarotti and built in 1910 to 1911. And this is an application to install storefront infill and light fixtures. This item was also read into the record on October 18th and is being presented for the first time today.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Willie Miller with the Preservation Department staff. While we're waiting for the projector to power up, 30 West 24th Street is on the south side of 24th Street between 5th and 6th Avenues. 24th Street is the boundary of the Ladies Mile Historic District. So as you go through your handout and you look at the streetscape photographs, the buildings on the south side of 24th Street are within the historic district. On the north side, they're without. The proposal today is to remove existing storefront infill, and as the architect will walk you through the existing conditions, and you go to image 16, put in new storefront infill. This does not meet the rule for staff level approval because it is composed of operable doors. And we have an update, but I'll introduce Jordan Rogo with DXA Studios. He can start going through the proposal. If you can just follow along in your handouts, I'll hold as Jordan speaks.
Okay, we'll reopen the hearing.
Great. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jordan Rogan. Thank you for your time this morning. We have the projector. And thanks for the intro, Bill. I'm here today to discuss application for an alteration to the storefront of 30 West 24th Street for Cafe El Presidente, as well as the addition of some lighting and signage on the storefront. Okay. Get the clicker. All right. So as you can see on page 1, slide 1, our site is located 30 West 24th on the south side of West 24th Street and the northern boundary of the Ladies Mile Historic District. Our building was built in 1910, and like many buildings of that age, and one of the previous presenters, it's a through-lot building. This supports retail on 23rd Street. Thank you very much. Retail on 23rd Street, and a majority of the storefronts along West 24th Street are really oriented or currently servicing as service entries to support that retail. Tax photos from 1940. Like a lot of the tax photos that we get, unfortunately the most interesting information is blocked by a delivery truck, and that is blocking the storefront. We were unsuccessful in procuring any additional information, drawings, photographs, so we were really left to conducting a series of probes on the existing storefront, from which we gleaned that it is not the original storefront. It appears to be about 10 to 20 years old, and we'll get to images of the probes shortly. So in the storefront not being original, we see this as an opportunity to do a storefront in line with several other of the storefronts that you can see throughout the district, which is an opening storefront. There's one just 3 doors to the east on West 24th Street at Beau's Restaurant, and then another series of examples ranging from metal to wood storefronts throughout the district. These are images of the south side of West 24th Street, the portion within the district, and you'll see that over time Many of the storefronts have just been painted over and closed up, and again, they serve as the service entries or storage portion of the retail on 23rd Street. You see alterations made over the course of history, roll-down screens in the case of the P.C. Richards building just to our west. They've actually removed the entire storefront and filled that in with a block and have a service entry. Historically, there was a precedent for open storefronts along West 24th and in a lot of the store and loft buildings throughout the district, and that's with a series of grates and screens that used to open up into the manufacturing that was below grade. To just give you a sense of context, directly across the street, north side, these are not designated buildings. This is just outside of the district, but to give you a sense of the diversity of building types across the street. This image kind of speaks to one of the challenges of having a retail establishment on West 24th Street and having this kind of history of service entries on the back. You see it's not one of the more vibrant streets that you see throughout the Ladies Mile. So one of the challenges and kind of at the core of the design that we're presenting today was to kind of imbue a sense of activity and visibility for the restaurant, which is located mid-block. Here it is in its current form. Again, we've been able to glean that this storefront is not original. It's a copper-clad storefront in its current form. And there was mention of an alteration being made at the time of designation, which I believe was in 1989. Here are details of that storefront. What we have is the original wood doors in the east and west bays on either side of the storefront. You see some of the great neo-Gothic detailing, including a little gargoyle. And then the cast iron is in great shape. We don't intend to really touch any of this. And one kind of observation is that there appears to be kind of a datum line that happens across the storefront, this elevation, in which a significant amount of alterations appear to be made. As far as the probes and getting to know the storefront that we're inheriting here, we, again, conducted a series of probes. You can see that the primary form of construction in the storefronts is plywood. So obviously not a building technology employed in 1910. There is evidence of terracotta blocks that happen in this portion, the bulkheads of the storefront. That is potentially an original element. However, it would have only really been used as a substrate if it is indeed original. So here's a breakdown of the kind of non-original storefront that represents about 85% of the storefront, represented in the red. The portion with the terracotta is represented in blue here. And then we haven't spoken about this yet, but the service entry, that entire kind of wood entry had been removed at some point in history and replaced with metal doors. Part of this application is actually restore that back to wood doors. It'd be a solid version of the wood doors rather than the glass, which is at the office entry. Here's an overall elevation of the building to give you a sense of kind of the building lines that we're extending down into our proposed storefront today. You see the 5 continuous window expression in the body of the building extended down through the transom and down to the storefront. So we have our operable opening doors, a set of 5 contiguous mirroring what is happening higher up in the building. Here we have rendered elevations showing the same thing, existing, proposed. And then this is a night rendering, and this is something that we're working on at staff level, but wanted to make you aware is that we're actually hoping to illuminate the building again, giving it greater presence and visibility on this block. As for lighting, this is the existing sconce. In no way is that historic, and I think we can improve upon that pretty easily. We are speaking with a glass blower, glass artist, and what we're proposing is to do a cylindrical version of a fixture that he's already produced at a number of locations. And as for additional visibility, something we're contemplating including in this proposal is presence of flags, which are actually the entire west half of the south side of 24th Street currently have flags. So we'd like to include a couple of those on the storefront at these locations, directly above those lights. Here's a rendered kind of enlarged elevation of the storefront we're proposing. Again, here's existing. And note that this is the current state of the service entry, and this is what we're proposing. Again, to mirror the entry over here, I'll bring back the kind of Gothic arch expression of the transom of the door. And then here's a rendering of the storefront closed. And then here's a rendering, which is a little hard to see on the screen here, maybe a little bit easier to see in your packets on page 17, of a steel applique that happens on the glass, which really serves a couple of purposes. One, for security of the restaurant and the glass, and then also it really relates to the theme and origin of this restaurant and its roots in Mexico City cafes. We're proposing that they be removable, so they're not a permanent part of the storefront. And then finally, here's a rendering of the storefront completely open in the spring, summer, early fall months. We're going to try to go back to community board, get outdoor seating, even if that isn't something that's pursued or approved. Just being able to have that restaurant open and bring that sense of activity back to this block is a major priority for my client. And then finally, we have samples of both the glass and the color that we're proposing to paint the steel storefront. This is the Benjamin Moore color, and here's glass, clear glass, low iron, and that's it.
Questions for the applicant?
Can you
Yes,
just
Adi,
go
and
back
then-
to the, to the slide that shows, before the fully open one, that one as well, see the one before, yeah.
This.
So is the current storefront pulled out to
Correct.
be that far
Exactly.
into the sidewalk?
Yeah, it's actually not that far in the sidewalk. It's really coplanar with the granite here, and then the door actually sets back. So we're keeping the same profile of the extant storefront.
So that means that just underneath, before the transom, is it that deep a shelf back
Yes.
to the face of the previous building? So the original is that way too? It doesn't look it in the elevation, but anyway. Yeah, we don't know.
Exactly.
No, I mean, not original, I mean the existing,
The
excuse me.
existing is right at that shelf at the transom, right here. So we're matching the profile exactly, setting back the main doors. And then the intent is those main doors open outwards, and these doors open inwards to kind of balance and open the storefront as shown here.
Does that, and just for a second, go back to that
Sure.
image that we couldn't see in the very beginning with the trucks in front of it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just curious to know, it just looks to me as though it would have been all the way set back. And, you know, it just doesn't make sense that there would be that shelf, and yet, you know, it is hard to see, isn't it?
Yeah, there is great depth there, but I don't think it's without precedent. If you walk through the Ladies Mile district, you see kind of a variety of...
Right, I'm just looking at the facade of
Yeah,
this
no,
building, and
sure.
and what would make sense would be something that would be coplanar with the existing glass, you know, with the existing...
glass at the transom,
Yeah.
bring it back like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it just appears, I mean, look at that image, right?
Well, it's actually right here. So
Yeah,
you
I
don't
know.
see...
But it looks
Yeah.
like what is dark is set back below the transom.
in here.
Yes,
I don't know that you see, this is the transom right at
Right.
the top of the truck. And then these are the spandrel, the cast iron spandrel.
right, so right underneath the spandrel, it looks
So
like it
I honestly can't see anything there. When we really zoom in on the computer, it still appears to be part of the truck.
yeah, but if you look at that facade,
Yeah.
wouldn't that make sense, since the entryway, the second floor, everything seems to be recessed from the front material, so it would, other than the spandrel, so it would make sense the spandrel's the furthest out, right? And that maybe,
I think in most circumstances, but we've seen plenty of examples that don't follow that.
I know, I mean, I'm talking specifically
Yeah,
on this
that's-
building. If you as an
sure.
architect are looking at the building, you'd say, more than likely, the glazed material is all in the same plane.
Roberta and then Frank.
The terracotta base, though, that is there now, is original, you're saying? Are you
But
think?
we're saying we don't really know. It would make sense. That's a technology that was used in 1910, but it wasn't a decorative element. It was probably just sandwiched behind a metal storefront. And when that's used, it's typically has like a substrate element, either fireproofing or rigidity construction. So sort of the
Talking about the
same.
book tiles, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're always concealed.
Right, exactly.
No, I was just asking if that was something that we thought was original, even though you don't see it. I'm not saying that it's.
Yeah, I honestly don't know if it is original, but there's the possibility. It would make sense if it was indeed original.
And so your idea is that you don't have any base, you don't want.
That's correct.
Yes.
That the bulkhead is definitely something characteristic of the neighborhood, and definitely part of the history of this building. So we want to bring that, we're incorporating that into the new design.
The bulkhead.
The bulkhead, but as part of the door, as a base panel or a kick panel on the door.
Fred, and then Michael.
Yeah, in addition to Addie's comments, which I think I share her concern with, I want to express my concern about the scale of the doors, the little doors. That there's nothing in this building that is brought down to that scale, and maybe you can argue it from the point of, well, we're now down at a human scale on the sidewalk and so forth, but I was sketching, always dangerous for a commission to be doing. The doors, instead of 4 doors, it'd just be 2. So you'd be bringing down some lines from the building.
Two on each side.
Yeah, and it would fold. Of course, it'd be a bigger door when it folds, but that's a problem for you with the tables out of the way and so forth. But it just seemed like the scale of this is getting at odds with the building. And then further, maybe it's not even a landmarks issue, but I guess it is a landmarks issue. The addition of the non-permanent metal grills on the inside, even then make it further the scale reduction. So I'm just a little bothered by that whole scale reduction.
Right.
Just said it.
Yeah, no, I think it's certainly something we study, bringing those larger doors down and doing 2 on either side of the door. I certainly understand that. I think for us, functionally, this works better. There's certainly, we're honoring kind of the cadence and rhythm of the fenestration, bringing that down. I understand concerns about the scale, but we actually quite like this and think that it balances it pretty well.
Michael?
My question is, I go back to those nearly indecipherable pictures on page 2. What does seem clear to me, and maybe it's because it conforms with my own personal thinking on these things, is that from the sill line at the second floor down, looks like this more or less the same colorish, whereas the windows from the sill line of the second floor up seem to be of a different same color. So what I was going to ask is, did you do any paint analysis of the storefront? Because for me, what makes it even more what exacerbates the thing that the other two commissioners commented on is this kind of kneecapping of the color of the building at the very bottom, which, yes, is what you've got now, but I think looks peculiar. And I was just wondering if it comes from somewhere.
Well, we didn't perform paint analysis because the scope of our work really doesn't extend to the cast iron portion. And in this, everything that was constructed, we were able to identify early on that it's probably only about 20 years old. And it's all copper, essentially. So we didn't do any paint analysis. As far as the photograph goes and trying to identify what's painted in what color, again, the photo leaves probably more questions than it answers. So it was very hard for us to identify that. The improvements that we're proposing really just limit to the ground level and then some of the lighting.
The transoms aren't part of your level?
The transoms right here we're not touching.
Right, but they're part of your
Would be
level.
correct.
One could if one wished to.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for now? Okay, we'll take testimony. Barbara Zay?
Barbara Zay of the Historic Districts Council. Overall, HDC feels that the new storefront should respond in color and rhythm to the historic architecture above it. We applaud the choice of steel for the storefront, but feel that the material's potential is not being reached, its application appearing more like extruded aluminum. Perhaps this is something to do with it protruding out a little bit. Our other comments related to the light fixtures, but it appears that the applicant is presenting something different from what our committee looked at, so I won't make that comment. Thanks.
Thank you, Barbara. Jack Taylor?
I'm Jack Taylor of the Drive to Protect the Ladies Mile District. One would hardly guess from this proposal that it applies to a building described in the designation report as neo-Gothic. Nor would one even surmise that the structure is in the Ladies Mile Historic District, where most storefronts featured expansive show windows to accommodate merchants like, in this case, sellers of cloaks, suits, and shirtwaists, again, according to the designation report. Although there is apparently no photograph that pictures clearly the ground floor's original configuration, it is a fairly safe bet that the existing altered storefront is based on a historic precedent because of its generous use of glass surrounding a single entrance, central entryway. One could quarrel, too, with the proposed light fixtures. They certainly do not shout 1911, the date of construction. We urge the Commission to reject this application as ineligible for a certificate of appropriateness. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers on this item? All right, Community Board 5 has sent in a resolution. They recommend denial of the application to remove and replace existing storefront at 3032 West 24th Street, as we strongly believe that every effort should be made to retain and maintain surviving historic storefront configurations and elements in the Ladies Mile Historic District. All right, Jordan, would you like to respond or to any of the comments made?
Yeah.
Is this also, just to clarify, the existing storefront is historic?
No.
Okay,
No.
just wanted to understand that. So it's not been able to be determined whether it's,
Yeah, I mean, I
it
think.
replaces where it was, where the wall was historically or not, is that correct?
Correct. To the best of our knowledge, again, all that we had at our disposal were conducting probes, and the only element that it could potentially be historic are the substrate of the terracotta panels. And I think the community board very much appreciated the application, with the exception of removing the terracotta tiles. That's my understanding. No response.
Okay, all right, any other questions or comments? Yeah, my instinct is, I think, similar to Addie's and Fred's about the location of the storefront just seems odd. And it's actually a question to you, Jordan, about whether you've looked. There are two issues. One is that I also agree with Fred's comment about just the rhythm of these panels. And so currently you don't have any intervening panels, right? So it's I think, existing, it's sort of a large span of glass. And now you're creating these panels. And if you do follow the rhythm of the fenestration above, what would be the issue is, I'm presuming it would be the width of the doors.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So one of the things is that you want to, when you fold the doors or open them out, you don't want them to stick into the street. So I don't know if there's a way where you could actually address two issues, which is to recess this and then have these doors so that, in fact, when they open out or
You get
open
that
in,
go to that
they
dimension.
create, it's a natural recess.
No, I think we can certainly explore that further if that's, if that's the preference of commissioners. But yes, they swing in, so it's a matter of functionality. Most manufacturers don't really warranty doors when they get to that size. What happens when you divide down? You're talking about doors that are in excess of 4 feet.
What would this be if it would be an excess?
No, that would be in excess. Each panel
Yes.
would be in excess of 4 feet. So then it becomes, a custom operation becomes far more expensive and more difficult to use. That's on the kind of pragmatic side. of things.
Right.
But I understand the design concerns about breaking, parsing that down too much from the 5 windows. Again, we feel that this works very well with the existing building, but happy to look at that if that's the preference of the.
All right, other commissioners, just comments? Yes.
Yeah, I'm also not convinced about the steel, but, I mean, and I'm not sure that if in fact this was copper, it really is 20 years. I would think it's more than 20 years if it is an existing.
There's, in the designation report itself, there's mention of an alteration just being made at the time of designation. When we looked at the copper does not look like it has aged very much at all. So it's our conclusion that the latest it is probably late 80s that this was installed. And again, the plywood underneath, there's some water damage, but not significant enough
Right.
to make it seem like it's been there a long time.
Just a question, I mean, just since you referenced the Mexico City cafes, the historic ones I think that you're talking about actually have wood and glass facade. It really, well, I mean, the ones that I have in my mind are wood, but, so I'm just curious if you considered that at all.
We looked at wood. The problem is the profiles get very chunky.
Do they?
There seemed to be kind of a discord with the painted cast iron infill.
I see.
And it seems the wood kind of bookending on the two sides
Yeah.
at the entries works very well, but then bringing that in, it just didn't work as well with the cast iron transom and a two-story expression in the middle of the base.
Right. I mean, some of those Mexico City cafes are sort of Art Nouveau, and so the profile of the wood is not thick. It's
Yeah.
actually thin, but maybe it's not something you can achieve
Right.
today here. I don't know. It is doable, but.
Yeah, understood. And to your point about the kind of plane that the storefront rests in, I think if it is possible that the terracotta panels are original, that is the plane that they're on. So if originally the storefront would have definitively been there, if we could prove that those things are original, if that makes sense. So
Wait, where?
the terracotta was present here along this plane, again, coplanar with the granite base. So the comment about where the storefront rests, if those are indeed original, then that's really where it happens.
Where is the plywood in relation to the terracotta?
On the outside of the terracotta. And then the
The plywood isn't going to predate the Second World War, the beginning of the
Right.
Second World War. So we've got that terminus post-chem for that. If this copper was applied to that plywood originally, it would have a patina on it already. So,
Right.
so I think it supports your supposition that
That
the
is,
copper is newer.
Right.
The book tiles, they're still making them and using them, so
Yeah.
it would be difficult to tell.
Yeah, right, if it was original or not. But the book tiles, the terracotta is right behind that. And so here you see on the back side.
Michael?
And I would just ask that the applicant do a little bit of paint analysis up to the underside of the sill on the second floor and try to think about how the color of the base should be thought of as in the context of the overall building.
Can the applicant just talk a bit more about the light fixture?
Sure.
Is your reference to something of another period or something in the neighborhood or what?
Here. So this is the current light fixture. So what we're doing, again, we wanted a fixture that's actually like a glowing fixture, again, to activate the sidewalk a little bit. This stretch of the sidewalk is pretty dark. So we wanted a glowing fixture, and then it's a local designer. So there's not a whole lot of trying to match a historical form as much as it being a fixture that, again, supports the brand of the restaurant, the aesthetic, and also ties in with the overall design. That's the basis.
Are there any more comments? Yes.
I'll make a comment about the flags.
Yes.
They seem superfluous to me, but they are, I mean, there are two of them because of the symmetry of the building, but I was thinking, should one be there? And I'm not sure of that, but nobody's commented. I just wanted to be sure. We're going to see this again, I presume, so I just wanted to say, at least from my point of view, I'm not sure the flags
But
are
are those flags
appropriate.
existing? Do they have?
No.
And for,
The flags on the west side, to the west of the property are existing. What we're proposing is to actually add flags, again, to help with visibility. We're mid-block on a rather dormant block, so it helps increase visibility from both 6th Avenue and Broadway.
So you're saying, so on your picture, we don't see the neighboring flags, right? We just see your...
No, correct. The flags you just saw are in the building that's essentially right over here.
And currently there are flags, or there are no flags?
There are no flags.
Okay, all right, so this is an introduction. All right, so what we'll do is we'll bring you back. I think it's worthwhile just to at least show us what that alternative would look like, and so we could see.
Sure.
I do think that, Fred's comment about the rhythm of the windows and the fenestration, the doors, I think changing that would help. And so, because particularly you're planning to do some sort of infill, which is more, it's very subtle, but I think when you've divided up the panels already too many times, and then you have these other, it sort of takes away from otherwise some kind of transparency. So if you could look at that and look at the issue of Michael, what was about the paint and the flags as well, and whether you really need them.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, great.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
thank you.